All right, I'm back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily with the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of Illinois at thecentersquare.com. So go check out the latest there. Get the headlines in your inbox.
I think it's important that...
And be sure to wake up with us when I'm active, not on vacation. I'm here with you each and every weekday morning. A little late start this morning. Had a computer, had to be... updated, and I, against my better judgment, I decided to update it quarter till 8 o'clock, and it just kept updating and updating and updating and updating. We were going to have a live interview with Bailey Templeton. She's a candidate for the State House who's been delving into missing children numbers with the Department of Children and Family Services, and we were going to do that live, but as the computer was updating, I didn't want to hold her too much longer, so I just pre-recorded that, and we'll share that with you here in just moments. But we're also going to talk about some criticism of Governor J.B. Pritzker's management of the budget. And if you recall, not long ago, the governor put out an executive order after the Center Square reported. I'm not sure if there's a direct correlation here, but, you know, we put out a story about the increased amount of money that the state has been spending since Pritzker's been in office. It's 40+% increased spending, $16+ billion in increased spending. Then the governor put out a statement in an executive order saying we need to find efficiencies within state agencies. But we really haven't seen anything come out from that. So some Republicans late last week criticized that. So I had all of last week off. I had last week off after Friday of the week before. It was good to unplug and to refresh. And we're back at it now as we gear up for the latest to cover, of course, with primary elections coming up in March. So we're going to be heat into the swing of that. That's going to be a lot to cover, especially with, the nominating petitions being filed and challenges being made, the number of individuals looking to get the U.S. Senate seats that Dick Durbin's retiring from. The governor's race with Darren Bailey's campaign and Ted Dabrowski's campaign and Jim Mendrick's campaign to challenge Governor J.B. Pritzker and several other names in there as well from, lieutenant governor candidates. So there's tons for us to tackle, and I appreciate you guys being here with us, but I want to encourage you to go to thecentersquare.com. The website obviously was still cranking out stuff. The team from the Center Square, Jim Talamonte and others, helping get those stories out to you. So go to thecentersquare.com and sign up for that newsletter today to get the latest, where you can read about the state sports wagering declining after new tax implementation. You've got the patient's information about relying on the Affordable Care Act with tax credits and the possibility of increased premiums, and the Chicago city budget situation, other economic stories, and more. So go check out thecentersquare.com. Again, the team in full effect while I was on vacation, so greatly appreciate them keeping you guys informed as well. But get the newsletter in your inbox each and every weekday morning, and wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily. Each and every morning, it's right here with the Center Square. So make it happen and join us, won't you? All right, good deal. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. We'll share with you the conversation I had with Bailey Templeton about updates to the numbers that DCFS has concerning missing youth in care. That's next year with Illinois in Focus Daily. Friday, as I was getting back off of vacation, got a message from the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services with an update on the numbers that we had asked for last month. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning for the latest on how you can stay informed of what's going on in the land of Lincoln. And you can get headlines in your inbox by going to thecentersquare.com. Again, thecentersquare.com. You can get the newsletter in your inbox each and every weekday morning. So one thing that we talked about before I went on break was the issue of missing foster children. Well, the terminology here I think we have to focus on. Youth in Care, the Department of Children and Family Services. Last month, I got a message from some sources that were saying that we need to have more clarity and transparency in the number of missing youth that is on the radar of the Department of Children and Family Services, the state's welfare agency. Bailey Templeton, a candidate for the Illinois State House, she chatted with us about the numbers she received through the Freedom of Information Act and showed that there was a 1,000% increase from 2023 to 2024 in the number of youth in care missing in the Department of Children and Family Services. It went from like 6 to 116 over the span of like 2 years. So clearly there was some big issues there as far as the jump that she received in the numbers. Well, I also put in a FOIA request to get those numbers. It took them 2 weeks to get me something saying that they're still working on it, and then it took another week or so before they actually got me, not from the FOIA office, but from the communication office at the Department of Children and Family Services. So I want to pull this up for you so you can kind of follow along in what the communications department at DCFS sent me. And this is it. It's just a 4-page document, process for locating missing youth. They talk about how that's youth in care, and they have a specific unit for it, the Child Intake Recovery Unit. They talk about how they report to local authorities. They also report to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and they track a whole variety of things, searching public records for possible arrests, incarcerations, and medical emergencies. They search local shelters, and then they go into more about what exactly constitutes a missing youth in these definitions and how they track them. So they say a youth goes missing and returns multiple times during a calendar year. The most common occurrence is when a youth at a residential facility goes back to their family. Youth may also leave for a short time and return on their own. Very few youth go missing, stay missing, and the numbers change on a daily basis. Then they talk about the definitions, what constitutes missing, what constitutes duration. They give information about the data that's going to be shown here on a later page about missing youth and located recovered youth by calendar year. Youth that remain missing at the end of each calendar year and their status, and that represents the number of unique youth missing at the end of the calendar year. 2025 data represents the number of unique youth went missing and have not returned, recovered, located within the calendar year up to October 9th. Instances of youth missing over the span of different calendar years are rolled over until the youth has been recovered or located, and they provide some fictitious examples of how those numbers are generated. John, fictitious example, missing in December of 2023, returned January 2024. It's marked in as missing in 2023, but was also missing in that first couple of days of January. So in 2024, it would be marked, but also be returned. So you got to see how these numbers ultimately could, square up. They give another example of somebody who went missing multiple times and returned multiple times and how that adds to the numbers. But then they go into the missing and youth and located recovered youth by calendar year. And you could see here the numbers of instances of youth missing and then instances of youth located and recovered. And you can kind of glean, subtracting the instances of youth missing and the instances of youth being located or recovered in 2019. I mean, you've got 200 plus. It's about 200 and 180 or so, and then back and forth until you get, obviously, to the most recent data up through October 9th. So youth that remain missing at the end of each calendar year and their statuses, the data below represents the number of youth remaining missing as the end of calendar year by category. If a youth remains missing over the span of multiple years, they will show as missing at the end of the year. They ended in missing status. Then you can see here the abducted column, the whereabouts unknown, continuing contact, child or youth has contacted their caseworker but will not disclose their location. And then also whereabouts unknown. Child Youth has not contacted their caseworker, and their whereabouts are unknown. So you can see here the numbers of whereabouts unknown. In 2024, 147. That's down from 2023, 198. Down from 2022, from 221, and so on. You can see those numbers for yourself here. And then the duration, they provide that as well as to how many days these youth in care went missing. So that's the latest. We got that Friday. I was literally, getting my hair cut and checking emails, and it comes in, and boom, I'm like, okay, well, that gives us something to update you guys on, because we've been tracking this story for you here with Illinois in Focus and the Center Square. So I contacted again Bailey Templeton, who tipped me off to this issue, and got her reaction to the messages I've received from the department, not through the FOIA office, but through the Department of Communications with the Department of Children and Family Services.
I think it's very curious that they had the communications department send that to you instead of FOIA, when that's FOIA's job. And the fact that FOIA still refuses to respond to my questions, that's a little bit alarming as well.
So I asked Bailey, when I chatted with her briefly this morning as we were getting some computers restarted, what she thinks all of this says after reviewing the 4 pages of that document.
I believe there's a lot of discrepancies between the numbers that they provided to you and the numbers that they provided to me, which shows, again, a lack of oversight. It shows a lack of communication, and that they genuinely don't care about these missing children. This should be a priority to them.
Now, remember, last month we reported out that DCFS was still looking for the numbers. When we put our FOIA in, we gave them 5 days to get us the FOIA response for the specific numbers that we were looking to confirm what Templeton had provided us. She got from FOIA. And they said that the numbers were not mostly accurate, and they wanted more context around the numbers. But then, we still didn't have the numbers a week later and 2 weeks later. And then the story was they're still looking for those numbers. But then, a week later, we finally get the report here, the 4-page report through the communications office. And I asked Bailey what that does to the numbers that she received. Does it blow them out?
I think the numbers that I received were completely blown out. I think we've got a more accurate number of children missing every single year, considering in my numbers, they said there was 1 to 2 missing in the prior years. Your FOIA response, or your director of communications response, shows hundreds of children missing every single year. And
if you, again, look at those numbers that we detailed in that document, it shows that, for instance, the whereabouts unknown, 2019, 200. Whereabouts unknown in 2020, 225. Whereabouts unknown in 2021, 261. Whereabouts unknown in 2022, 221. So you can see how the numbers fluctuate a little bit, and keep in mind how they're calculating these. If they went missing in 2023 and they were still missing in 2024 but returned mid-year, they're still listed as missing in one category, and then it changes in another category. So there's ways to look at these numbers and slice and dice them, obviously. But Bailey, again, called for an audit.
I think there needs to be a huge audit done of Illinois DCFS. That's something I've pushed since the beginning. It's very clear at this point that they don't even know how to present the numbers that we've asked for. And in my case, I've asked for additional numbers about these children, and they're not responding. So I think I'm heavily considering filing that lawsuit to get those answers as well.
So looking at those numbers again, and sharing with Bailey the communication I received from the department, it shows that we had a little spike from 2019 to 2020, and then more in 2021, and then it goes down in 2022, down in 2023, down in 2024. But it seems to be backward on an upward swing through most of this year. Does that show any kind of progress?
I think it would indicate progress, but that would have to assume that the numbers that you were provided were accurate and that the numbers I was provided were false. Regardless, there is a huge discrepancy here where I can't really discern what is the actual situation because of the numbers being so skewed.
Now, Kim Bailey is running for the State House as a Republican, and she will have a primary. And she came down to Springfield to file nominating petitions earlier this month before the deadline to get those in. And she said that when she was in Springfield, she visited the Department of Children and Family Services office in Springfield personally.
Well, very kind. The people there were very kind. We had a security guard and two people at the front desk. When I asked them who Carl Gilmore is, which is the FOIA officer, they had no idea who I was talking about. And I said, well, that's kind of concerning. He's in this office and I would like to talk to him. He did not want to speak with me, but he did tell me that he's working on my FOIA responses. This is a couple weeks ago and I still have nothing, Carl. So I'm going to keep on digging. Other than that, I think that internally, the people who work at DCFS know that there's a huge issue. I also found it kind of curious that the security guard who's worked there for years hadn't ever met the director until the week before I visited. And I think that might have something to do with our numbers.
So clearly, there's still questions that Bailey has about this, and she says that the Auditor General's audits of the agency, they may shine some light on what's going on, as we reported in 2024 audit from the Auditor General about missing youth and the continued problems that DCFS has about following the procedures to report to, for instance, in a timely fashion, the National Center for Missing Children when a youth in care goes missing. Bailey doesn't believe that that's going to be enough. There need to be outside audits done.
I don't think so, because they are not changing what they need to do to fix it. And in past years of audits, you can see how many times they've failed to do what they're supposed to do. And then it's a repeating problem the next year in the audit. So whether we need a complete reform or what exactly we need to do to make sure that these children are safe, I'm willing to push for that.
Bailey Templeton again, running for the State House. I asked her what's most important. What should people take away from this?
I think it's important that this does not get swept under the rug. I think what we have here is evidence that I was provided different numbers than the press. I think that is a huge failure in oversight, because if you're providing false numbers to American citizens or Illinois citizens versus the press, it shows such a huge discrepancy. How can we trust this state agency who has proven to lie, not only to me, but to Greg and whoever else they're sending false numbers to?
Now, as Bailey is, curious about this issue, she's also curious about other issues, like, for instance, how much taxpayer money is going to this, and she's looking at other aspects of taxpayer funding for DCFS and how they're using those tax dollars.
Right. I have looked into Medicaid funding. I've looked into Social Security funding because some of these children are listed as disabled, so they would receive those funds, and I'm trying to see where those funds are pushed out to. Most recently, about 2 weeks ago, I filed a FOIA asking how many children in DCFS care have unregistered Social Security numbers. So I'm still digging at them. I'm trying to figure out exactly the ins and outs of what they're hiding from the public. And they're just not responding anymore.
Now, if they're not responding, how is she going to get those numbers through FOIA if they're not responding?
I think I'm going to have to file a lawsuit against the FOIA office to get these numbers. I've got a couple people who can help me get through that lawsuit, but I think this is a matter of public emergency and attention that needs to be directed straight at these children. If they can't pay attention to the children they have in care, then maybe the public should.
And again, Bailey Templeton running for the Illinois State House as a Republican. I asked her what are other things that she's going to do if she was to get into office.
One of my favorite things to do is to research. So if I noticed or a constituent noticed that there was another issue within a state agency, I'm prepared to dissolve the entire issue and break it down to the finances and figure out exactly what we can do to reallocate funds to help the people instead of harming the people.
Again, Bailey Templeton, a candidate for the Illinois State House, coming to the Center Square to talk about FOIA in the Department of Children and Family Services, numbers of missing youth, and just overall transparency of the issue when it comes to the state's most vulnerable residents, and that is youth in care at the Department of Children and Family Services. We'll definitely be on top of this. Continuing on with the Center Square. Get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com and sign up for the newsletter today.
think the governor's executive order was right on time. Illinois continues to fail at passing a truly balanced budget year after year when we've seen, a $55 billion budget this fiscal year, the highest in the state's history. We know that the truth is that budget cuts need to happen.
It's Regan Deering, a Republican state representative from Decatur, joining another Republican, Amy Ellick from Alton, late last week, criticizing Governor J.B. Pritzker's handling of your tax dollars in the annual budget. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with The Center Square. Get headlines in your inbox by going to thecentersquare.com, clicking newsletter and registering. It's free. We're a free newswire service, and you can also donate to us at thecentersquare.com. But you can wake up with us here each and every weekday morning, back after a week off. Greatly appreciate you guys and your patience and coming back and checking us out as we go back live to cover what's going on in the land of Lincoln. So if you have followed the Center Square and you've watched this show, you recall that sometime last month, Governor J.B. Pritzker issued an executive order. But the executive order saying we need to find budget cuts, blaming the Trump administration for those needs for budget cuts. The day before that, the Center Square's investigative team published a report about how much spending has increased in the state of Illinois under Governor J.B. Pritzker. 40+%, $16 billion since 2019, and we're spending a record amount of money. Legislature passed tax increases in May to fund the budget that started July 1st, rather. So the calendar year for the budget year for Illinois is not the calendar year. It starts July 1st. That's why at the end of May, it's always a mad dash to get that budget completed before May 31st. But regardless, budget, highest spending plan in state history, includes tax increases and a whole host of other things. You've got Republicans who were critical then and now, even after weeks of the governor having this executive order saying, hey, state agencies, because of the Trump administration, we need to cut the budget. They really haven't seen much when it comes to transparency on how that executive order is being implemented. Here is Amy Ellick.
A month ago, Governor Pritzker signed Executive Order 2025-05, which directed his agencies to identify immediate spending reductions in an effort to blame Trump for his agency's overspending. As a CPA and spokesperson for the General Services Appropriations Committee, I was very much looking forward to seeing where Governor Pritzker's agencies identified inefficiencies and excessive spending, and hoped that maybe this executive order would create a slightly more efficient government. That proved to be wishful thinking. We're not getting any information whatsoever from agencies about where they plan to cut. Because we had not heard any results from this executive order.
And you've got Ellick saying that transparency is needed.
Illinoisans deserve transparency and accountability. Their government should be transparent about the work they are doing for them, not hiding behind political theater and press releases. House Republicans' message is simple: respect taxpayers and live within our means. It's time for Governor Pritzker to stop using his office to campaign for president and get our house in order.
Regan Deering, the Republican from Decatur, joining Ellick in this news conference late last week, saying that the budget cuts need to happen. Illinoisans can't afford Illinois government spending at the levels it continues to increase spending.
Instead of eyeing a bid for higher office, Governor Pritzker needs to do the job he was elected to do here in Illinois. We're ranked at the top of almost every tax list that's published. In March, a Wallet Hub study reported that Illinoisans pay the highest combined taxes of any other state in the nation, coming to more than 16.5% of our incomes spent on taxes annually. And for what? To fund shortfalls in Chicago, pay raises for legislators, to give illegal aliens top-of-the-line benefits. It's simply shameful that our governor gets away with smoke and mirror tactics, dangling executive orders like this in the face of Illinoisans and then taking it back when he knows he can't deliver. The people of Illinois who haven't left or been pushed out are fed up, and so am I. We can do better, we can do more, and we can do right by the people of Illinois. Simply put, enough is enough.
Now, Governor J.B. Pritzker late last week asked about the government shutdown, SNAP being reinstituted after the government reopened with Senator Dick Durbin voting to reopen the government, joining several other Democrats breaking away from the party in the U.S. Senate to reopen the federal government. And Pritzker, obviously says he disagreed with the senior senator from Illinois, but he also took an opportunity to criticize the Trump administration.
Well, we're up, this has all moved fairly quickly, so we're all moving as quickly as we can at the state level, knowing that funds will flow or are flowing. And then, we had to make major adjustments in SNAP to try to meet the various levels of SNAP funding allowed by the courts. Right? Originally it was 0, went to 50%, 65%, back to 50%, though some people weren't going to get any at all. Now we're back to 100%. So we're working as fast as we can to make sure that people have their SNAP cards charged and ready to go.
And then the governor was asked about politics and the Trump administration. And you listen to these responses in the context of what you heard some of the Republicans from the state house saying, criticizing the governor for trying to run for president in 2028.
Well, when Donald Trump doesn't want to give people health care and is willing to take away people's food in order to force people to take less health care or pay higher premiums, that's going to cause Democrats and Republicans apparently not to be able to get along and not to be able to get the things that average Americans want. What I am so upset about is that Donald Trump was fine with people not being able to travel, people not being able to get their food. He is fine with taking away health care from people. And yeah, if you want to see division in a country, stop feeding people, stop giving them health care. And so it's Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans that have done this to this country. I'm hopeful that there will be reasonable minds that will come together and that we will be able to move past January, the end of January, which is now when the CR goes to, and not have to have any more shutdowns. But this is on Donald Trump. Remember, MAGA Republicans control the House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court. So who's in charge? It's the Republicans. When things aren't going well in this country, it's the people in charge that you ought to look to, and it's Donald Trump that's leading them.
But what about things in Illinois, right? I mean, if Illinois is bringing in record revenues, are they able to spend those properly, or are they going to have to find budget cuts, for instance? Again, back to State Representative Regan Deering noting that the governor announcing budget cuts, even though they haven't seen any transparent examples of how that's being done within state agencies after the executive order was signed, they say it's an indication that the budget's not balanced.
I think the governor's executive order was right on time. Illinois continues to fail at passing a truly balanced budget year after year. When we've seen, a $55 billion budget this fiscal year, the highest in the state's history, we know that the truth is that budget cuts need to happen, and they need to happen in real time and all the time. We're seeing federal dollars that are no longer going to flow to Illinois based on some of our policy choices. And so as a state, we're going to need to build up those rainy day funds, those backup plans for when we are going to have to fill in some of those gaps. So I think that that's a process that we're asking our families and our taxpayers to do all year long as well. So certainly when we as a governing body are managing taxpayers' money, there's always an opportunity to look for cuts.
And you've got, again, the back and forth here, right? About the government shutdown, and could we see another one come sometime in January with the federal government, right? And how that could impact the state of Illinois, let alone the state of Illinois having policies that don't conform with the Trump administration's policies. And that could lead to a loss of federal funding coming to Illinois, federal tax dollars, your tax dollars coming back to the state of Illinois. But Pritzker blaming it on Republicans when, again, in the U.S. Senate, they needed that 60 vote threshold to be met, which required some Democrats to come on board with Republicans. And Trump was talking about how he wanted to end the filibuster. And you can obviously track that at thecentersquare.com with stories. But one thing that happened during fall veto session, which we covered here, and you woke up with us each and every weekday morning after fall veto session to get the latest of what was going on at the Illinois State House here with Illinois in Focus. But one thing they did do is they decoupled the state tax code
this is
from
all
the
moved
federal
fairly quick.
tax code, right? And what that means is the tax credits and things that manufacturers can get under the federal tax code for losses or depreciation, things like that. It's not going to match up with the state's policies on those are not going to match up with the federal policies. And that's led some concern that's going to mean Illinois is going to be less competitive. Here's State Representative Regan Deering and Amy Ellick talking about that prospect.
Here, anytime we decouple, we become an outlier. We become the state that is immediately known for not being friendly to business, and we can just expect that companies will be looking elsewhere. It frankly happens already in Illinois, and we just unfortunately keep giving businesses reason to invest elsewhere.
Yeah, I would simply add on, Illinois' taxing levels are so high already. I think we're the third highest corporate tax in the nation. And so, while Democrats are making us an outlier, as Representative Ellick said, it just feels like one more fight they're picking against the Trump administration instead of prioritizing our families and our small businesses here. Large manufacturers are, of course, going to see raises. And overall, I think we're looking at $200 million plus that will be put on the backs of our Illinois families and businesses.
So how is all this going to shake out, and how are you, the taxpayer, going to be impacted? Wake up with us to continue on as we unpack all of this and more with the Center Square. Go to thecentersquare.com and get the newsletter and wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily. All right, thank you guys for coming back after I had the week off last week and even having a little bit of a delayed start. But computers are updated, they're refreshed, they're restarted after kind of sitting idle for a bit. Didn't realize how quick it would take for them to wake back up. So appreciate you being here for the live show. And of course, those who watch the rebroadcast, thank you so much. Get the podcast where you get podcasts. We do it live on YouTube each and every weekday morning, but you can also get the podcast in audio form. Just simply go to your podcast server and search for Illinois in Focus and you'll find it. All right, have a great Monday. Got to get back to reporting, seeing what's going on, and we'll be back at it tomorrow here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Each and every weekday morning, I'm Greg Bishop, editor of the Center Square, Illinois, and we'll see you tomorrow.